Welcome, everyone. This is Judy, and thanks for joining the Back to Love Movement show. Today, I'm very honored and feel privileged to have David Maria here with me today. David Maria, just so you know a little bit about him, he's living proof that the most gifted seers are those who have lived the most tumultuous lives. For decades, David struggled emotionally and financially as he worked to overcome the effects of the horrific abuse he experienced in childhood. His wealth of psychic gifts offered glimmers of hope and small breakthroughs that encouraged him. Unfortunately, addiction and toxicity pulled him back into the rolling waters of daily life. While David always had lucid, prophetic dreams, he was surprised when at the age of 72, he began dreaming of Africa. Those lucid dreams ignited his curiosity and set the stage for the incredible journey that continues to unfold today. In his dreams, David was being called by a Gikuyu, tribal elder to Mount Kenya. While these dreams felt important and compelling, the finances and logistics required to embark on such a voyage seemed impossible. Against the odds, in December of 2018, David made the pilgrimage to Mount Kenya for the annual prayer walk. During the festivities, Samuel Kamitha, a tribal elder and spokesman for the Gikuyu, emerged from the crowd to introduce himself. David immediately recognized the man from his dreams. Turns out Samuel is a shaman and one of the 12 seers of Mount Kenya. He had been dreaming of David too. As he came forward, he said, "We have been waiting for you." After a series of initiations and energetic jolts that felt like lightning, the Eden template had been transmitted to David. Once he experienced his own original soul blueprint and purpose through this powerful activation, he returned home to begin the work he came for. After taking some much needed time for clearing and integration, David began working with people to assist them in returning to their own original soul blueprint with the Eden template. Through this transmission, David shares the primordial, is that pronounced right?
Primordial.
Thank you. Keys and codes of creation to each soul who receives it. Free from the patterns of struggle, scarcity, unworthiness, and fear, his clients are finally able to experience a life of ease and flow. This enables each person who receives the Eden template to embrace, just as David did in Kenya, the reason they are here. And the cycle continues. Though David Maria knows what it's like to feel broken beyond measure, he also knows a far greater truth. No matter how broken you think you are, you're not. It's this profoundly healing premise that forms the core of David's work. Upon his return to Kenya in 2020, David was recognized by the Gikuyu elders as the 13th seer of Mount Kenya. Wow, that is major. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Judy. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, thank you.
We've known each other for a long time, and this is the first time we've actually been able to get together like this. So it's wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. Very much so. So let's start with you telling us, if we may, about the Eden template.
The Eden template is the original codes of creation. So Mount Kenya is recognized as the location of what we refer to as the original Garden of Eden. It still is. If you go there, you will understand this. The forest around the mountain is not only protected; it's a World Heritage Site, but it's primeval. There's no second growth forest in there. because it's never been cut. People have always known that this is a sacred mountain, and you don't go in and cut down trees. It is pristine. And even though, quote unquote, you are not supposed to walk in the forest, the Kenyan government is totally paranoid that a tourist will come and go into the forest and be hurt by an animal, because there are animals in there. There are leopards and elephants, and I could say there's lions and tigers and bears, but it's not quite that bad. But there are a lot of animals that are in there. Probably the only big animal that isn't in there is lions. But it's illegal to go into the forest. I have done it to a certain degree, just minimally. And when I say illegal, I mean if they catch you, they will arrest you and take you to jail.
Oh,
They take this very seriously. They do not want tourists being hurt, not at all. And but when you walk into the forest, every step that you take, it becomes quieter. And then this deep stillness begins to emerge or descend upon you. It's phenomenal. It's like walking back to the beginning of creation. So the Eden template is an opening or a reconnection of if you will, to each inside of each individual that reconnects them back to their original soul from the moment that it was first created. And that soul is directly, with no separation, connected directly to source. And as you make that connection, as the template begins to awaken in you, then the energy of source begins to flow through you, begins to flow up your spine, up your spinal column, comes out the top of your head and cascades down around you. It also sets up a toroidal field around you. It also opens up your heart and opens up your heart toroidal field. And as it continues to integrate in you, you literally begin to live it as you. It flows through you as you. There is no separation at all. So this is a connection directly back to source, with no intermediaries. There is no need for anybody to be in between you and that connection to source or the creator or God, or whatever word you want to use. It doesn't really matter, because it's beyond the concept of words. It's just what we use to help identify something.
correct. That's beautiful. And I have experienced the activation,
You
which
have.
you do offer.
You have, yes. Currently, there are now 7 classes in the Eden Temple series. An 8th has just come through, but it's not being offered yet, because it's not something that I have, quote unquote, fully embodied inside myself, and I can't share it with it. Can't teach it or share it with anybody until I fully have it embodied inside of myself. So when you read the intro, that when I returned from Kenya, I literally sat in my living room for 3 months, just staring out the window as the energy of it continued to integrate in me. It was so intense that my next door neighbor was totally convinced that I had a psychotic break. And they called a psychiatrist friend of theirs in New York and described my quote unquote symptoms to them. And they said, yes, he has. He needs to get into treatment right away, or it's going to get even more serious. And of course, my response was just to laugh and just go, no. Or if there has been a psychotic break, isn't it wonderful? If that's what it takes to break out of the normal mental patterning that we all have going on, then okay, that's all right.
Yes. And thankfully you were smart enough to know that, because other people would have taken that advice and probably been put on medication of some sort.
Or found a way to just shut it down, but it was not possible. So as I mentioned, currently I offer 7 classes in the series, and they just kind of walk through deeper and deeper refinement of what goes on inside of us as we begin to refine our energy field. So when you first receive the template, what it does is it begins the process of aligning your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies. And as they align in harmony with each other, then they also the line of that the fineness of that alignment becomes finer and finer and finer. And so we through the classes we just go deeper and deeper into that, in terms of releasing trauma and stress and fear and lack from our energy fields, from our auric fields, and also begin the process of cleaning them out of the cellular tissue in our bodies, because it's all contained in the body. And this work is very deep, and it most definitely is in the body. So most everybody has seen the Star Trek movies, where they have their intro, space, the final frontier. No, the body is the final frontier. It's coming into the body. So if you know me and you know anything about me, I was never in my body. It wasn't until I was 74 when I celebrated that birthday. That was the first birthday I've ever celebrated, by being in the body. So trust me, the irony of me being the one to encourage people to get into their bodies is not lost on me, because I was never in my body. It just wasn't safe. It just wasn't safe.
Yeah, excuse me.
I was always about 10 feet back.
And explain that for people, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are not in their bodies. Explain to people what happens, why you're out of your body, or what caused you. Just say, because you can't say for everyone, but basically, I was one of them, so I can relate to it as well.
Personally, I feel that 99% of the people on the planet aren't in their bodies. They're in their heads. They live in their minds. They live either in the past or the future, or some kind of projection of one or the other. If you're living in the past, then you're most likely living in fear. And most people carry trauma either from this lifetime or from another lifetime that is embedded in their cells, and they can't feel it. And they can't feel it because they're not in their bodies, and they're not in their bodies because it brings up fear when you go into those places. And most people will do anything not to feel fear. They just don't want to go there. But it's just the fear is just a mirage. It actually is not real. And when you really look at it and really go into it, it's probably one of the simplest and easiest things to be able to clear from yourself, to just become absolutely fearless. And I'm not talking about real fear. I'm not talking about when your life is in danger, like you're driving down the road and all of a sudden you lose control of your car. Well, yes, fear then is a really good thing. It gives you that nice big adrenaline boost, and you're super present to be able to do whatever is necessary to protect yourself, whatever it is. But I'm talking about fear that is absolutely groundless, that does not exist. So when we're born, we imprint on the electrical fields or the auric fields of our parents. And it's not just our parents, it's our grandparents and great-grandparents, et cetera, going back multiple generations, at least 14 or so. And all of them have some kind of fear that they have put together, whatever it is. It could be personal fears, it could be fears based on traumas, it could be cultural fears or religious fears or national fears. And mostly they're all imaginary. It's not present in our current reality. Look at the way that our news runs. It's all kind of fear-based. You just be afraid of this, be afraid of that. Well, is there anything right in front of you to be afraid of? If there's not, it's an artificial fear. It's just an overlay. So we go through pretty much in depth in the sequence of the classes, and just do clearings. And this is like just taking off a bunch of layers that are on top of you, that as you remove them, you discover they were never you. It's all artificial. It's just an overlay. And as you start taking them off, you discover that you can breathe more, that you can feel more, you're more sensitive, you become more physically, emotionally, mentally in tune with the unseen, with the unknown. You come to be more present in this current moment, which is the only one that there really is. There is no past, there is no future. It doesn't exist. And if you're not here living in this moment, you're missing it. Your life just went by you and you weren't present for it, which is the perfect description of somebody that's not in their body. If you're fully in your body, you're present, you're here. So I happen to be one of those people that I get guidance in the moment. And if I'm not present, I miss it and it doesn't come back. And there's usually a consequence to having missed it. And that doesn't mean a dire consequence or anything like that, but it just means that there's an impact in the fact that I missed an opportunity because I wasn't present. And as I've learned that, it really forces me to be right here, right now, and not daydreaming. And I mean, even when I'm watching a movie, it still requires being present.
So what would you say would be one of the best ways for a person to be able to stay present? Because I think a lot of people have problems with that.
It's literally to come into the body. So temporarily, I usually encourage people to ground very deeply into the earth and anchor into the earth. And I say temporarily because that's not a permanent thing that you need to do forever. Eventually, everybody is going to cross a threshold or a veil, if you will. And in that, they will become their own center. So the universe could be described as a place that there are absolutely no boundaries, but whose center is everywhere. So as you come into your own center, as you come into your heart fully and you center in your body, eventually you become your own center, and it's no longer necessary to ground any place, because wherever you are, there you are, and you're grounded. So, but initially, it's really helpful to ground to the earth. So I usually encourage people to gather all of the energy in their body and in their auric fields and begin to concentrate it and condense it and bring it down to their root. And that's not easy for some people. They just can't seem to come in. So sometimes I encourage them to make themselves weigh more, as much as a ton or more, so that they become so heavy that just the force of gravity pulls them into the earth. Sometimes I ask them to project their consciousness through into the earth and find a rock or a stone or even a mountain, whatever it is, something that just not a crystal. Crystal's very high energy and has a lot of energy. So, but find something that is really dense and just project your consciousness into it for just a little bit, not permanently, just for a little bit, because it helps pull you into your body. It helps really ground you. And from once you get your grounding going, then you can begin to pull all of these wonderful high frequency energies that are coming into everybody and begin to anchor them in the earth.
That's awesome.
And trust me, I understand this is not necessarily easy work. Especially in the beginning, it can seem daunting. It can seem like I'll never be able to accomplish it. But the truth is that it's not daunting, and everybody will eventually be able to accomplish this in their own time. I have no idea what that means. Everybody walks a unique path that is just for them. But as you walk the path, as you go through and you begin to clear the trauma from your body, and you clear that by just feeling it, which most people do not want to because it does not feel good. It doesn't feel fun. It's not like, oh, we're going to go to Disney World this weekend, or we're going to go to the beach and swim, or whatever it might be. They can feel overpowering, but the more that you do this, the more you discover, and it really comes to really settle in your awareness that this is just a momentary transitory experience of releasing something from yourself that has been running you energetically under the surface. And that the moment that you free it, and it gets easier and easier and easier to do this, and quicker, then what comes in to replace it, to fill that void, is this huge burst of light and consciousness that comes in. And you just continue to grow. You just continue to grow and reveal who you really are and who you always have been. We're just hiding behind several layers of masks that we're gradually taking off of ourselves.
Yes.
If you think of race car drivers that drive on dirt tracks, they have helmets that have face shields on them with tearaway screens, so that when it gets dirty, they can tear the screen off and see. And that's really kind of all we're doing, is we're just peeling the layers off of ourselves so that we can really become who we are.
Yeah. So we can get back to who we are. We've just forgotten who we are.
We just forgot. It's just part of the journey. It's all right.
Yep.
No,
And it's fun.
Absolutely. It becomes more and more and more fun. It becomes flat out joyous.
Yes. And I also would like to add that it's love-based, that it's all like from a place of love.
When I refer to the Eden template opening up that connection in the base of the spine, that source energy flows through. Source energy is simply absolutely pure love. That's all that source is.
Thank you. That's the essence of who we be, is what I always say.
As it flows through you, you become it, and you literally become love.
You're gonna make me cry. It's so true.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, it's a good cry, not a bad cry.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, it's the cry that feeling that pure essential love that we all are. It's what we all are.
It's
And that's what we're trying to do, is get everyone back to that, back to the basics, love. And you're a perfect person to take people there. So
I'm just a guide. I'm just a guide. What's that wonderful quote that everybody loves with Ram Dass is, we're all just walking each other home.
yes, beautiful.
There's nobody here that is better or worse than anybody else. There's nobody here that is superior to anybody else. We're just at different stages on the path that we walk. That's all.
Yes, totally. And we help each other.
And it doesn't matter who you are. There's somebody behind you, and there are lots that are in front of you.
And there's some right there with you too, right where you are too, as well.
We're all just walking together. There's
Right.
there's a lovely African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others.
Beautiful. So I would like to talk about Africa a little bit, if you don't mind.
Not at all. I'd love to.
I know. So, and I want to, and lots of people have never been there. Lots of people will never be there. So it's kind of like vicariously living through you. But let's just start from the beginning, like when you first, because like you were saying you had no clue Africa was even going to be your calling, so to speak. And that's basically your catalyst is Africa.
So in 2018, I became obsessed with Africa. I went to Northern Africa. I went to Tunisia, which is absolutely wonderful culture, and began studying, began doing homework, researching, which I'll eventually, in the grand scheme of things, was kind of silly, but that's all right. But in December of 2018, I started having very deep, lucid, prophetic dreams. And the first one was that I was with a friend of mine that runs a school for orphan girls in Kenya. And we were just standing at the edge of his property looking out over the savannah. And these three African kings appeared and started walking towards me. And in the dream, I didn't start crying. I started sobbing because I recognized them. And we talked for a little bit, and they invited me to go into the bush with them to study. I knew that they were inviting me to come to Africa. And I then had maybe another dozen deep, very lucid and deeply prophetic dreams, every single one of which came true. Not in the way that the dream was, because dreams are pretty fantastic, especially when they're very lucid. But the essence of them came true. So eventually, at one point, myself and two others, Beth Curia, who is from Kenya, living in Ireland, and also Teresa Lutenegger, we ended up being there together. And we arrived at the prayer vigil, which they weren't under, COVID wasn't happening then, so there were no restrictions. And there, when we got there, we were quote unquote late, and they were very anxious about us being there. And we had no idea what this is. We just knew that that's where we were supposed to go. So while we're driving there, they told us they were going to start at 9. It turns out they started at 8. So the entire time that we're driving there, they're calling us, where are we? How come, when are you going to get here? And at one point, I think we made a comment, like, look, this is an all-day event. This circumambulates around Mount Kenya. It's a 7-hour drive if you're driving. So it's a prayer vigil. You stop 7 times to do prayers. And I think we said something like, this is an all-day affair. Just go ahead and start without us. We'll catch up. And they're going, no, you don't understand. You have to be here. And we're looking at each other like, what are they talking about? So unbeknownst to us, they know we're coming. They've already told the crowd that we're coming. They've told them some of who we are. Maybe not all, but some. And so we get there, and there's maybe, I don't know, maybe 800 to 1,000 people there. They're all African. There's no white people there. And Teresa and I are the only white people. And it's obvious that there's a big crowd over here, and then there are some dignitaries, if you will, or officials, organizers, or whatever word you want to use, in front. So we got out of the car and just walked over to join the crowd in the back. No, they come and grab us and take us up front, turn us around to face the crowd, introduce us. It was both embarrassing, at least to me, and an honor all at the same time. And then we were introduced to all of the organizers, or the officials. And to be honest, if I saw them today, I would not recognize them. There was too many faces, too many names, too quickly. It's hi, this is. And then I was introduced lastly to an obvious priest or shaman or seer, whatever it is. And when I looked in his eyes and was introduced, his name was Samuel Kamitha. He was the man from my dreams. He was the king from my dreams. And I was very composed on the inside, or on the outside. I was very calm. On the inside, I was just shattered. And he looked at me and smiled and told me that he had dreamt of me. And I smiled back and told him that I had dreamt of him also. And he did. I'm trying to make this as short as possible, but
Well, don't leave out any good parts trying to make it short.
well, he then pointed to the crowd and said, "David, you have to understand that you're not like other people." And he gestured to all of the people gathered and said, "These are some of the kindest, gentlest, most generous people that you're ever going to meet. And except for me, there's not a single person here that knows who you are." And he said, I can't do much right now because we have an invocation to do and a prayer vigil to begin. So he said that he would give the three of us a blessing afterwards, which he did. And I didn't know it at the time, but when he came to me, he very clearly heard, "No, don't give him a blessing. Share with him everything." And it was like being struck by lightning 5 or 6 times in just the course of a few seconds. Just these huge jolts of energy going through me. And we then spent the next 6.5 hours driving around the mountain like bobbleheads that sit in the back of your car. And it just completely shattered everything inside of me, and I began the process of reorganizing. It wasn't long after that, a couple of days after that, that the template came in a transmission, which the way transmissions work is they come just instantly, and then they, in whatever time they do, they begin to unpack, and now you know what was inside of them. Sometimes that's very quick, sometimes it's evolves over time. So hence the three months sitting in my house staring out the window. I didn't work that entire time. I didn't have money to pay my rent or the electric bill or anything else. All I could do was just sit there. And at the end of 3 months, everything switched. Money just came in like crazy. I got caught up on all of the bills, much to the great gratitude of my landlord, I know. And all I can say is it has continued to evolve. One of the important things to share is that every time I go to Kenya, and it'll be the same this time, I invite anybody that wants to come with me and participate in the energy that is going on there, that is going on with the prayer vigil as everybody circumambulates around the mountain, and to be a part of it. And that was true the first time that I went. And many, many people, some of them you know, tuned in and they received the same transmission. So at one level, yes, this is kind of about me. And another level, it's extremely impersonal. And if you're able to be as we've all heard many times, if you're able to be a vibrational match for something, it will come. So lots of people, well, less than 10, but several people were able to tune in, and they also received that same transmission in whatever way that they did. Their work is different than mine, but it's still relevant within them. So I went last year and I invited everybody to come with me last year, and people did energetically participate, and I could feel them being present there with me. And I'll be going again this December. It's the actual prayer vigil is the 27th of December. I invite all of your listeners to please join. There are no travel restrictions to just join in energetically. You don't have to worry about COVID stuff or vaccines or anything like that. Just show up.
I love it. So what is this prayer vigil?
Well, so to really speak of the prayer vigil, you have to speak of Mount Kenya. So I mentioned earlier that Mount Kenya is what is known as the original source of the Garden of Eden. So Africa is the as everybody knows, it's the source of humankind on our planet. I mean, depending upon how far back you want to go, at one point before the world separated into our continents, there was just, that we know now, there was just one continent. It was referred to as Elysium. And in that time frame, creation began to manifest on the outside of the earth. Now, the inside was already fully developed, but now it began to develop on the outside. All of the plants, all of the animals, and the humans came into it also, and began to do very, very deep and sacred work. So as over untold millennium, as things changed and shifted, and civilizations rose and collapsed, but way before Atlantis, way before what we know of as Egypt, especially dynamic Egypt, seers and kings, pharaohs, people ready to take final initiations would come up the Nile. They would come to Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya is actually named Kirnaga, and it's referred to as the abode of the gods, or the abode of God. So people would come there for their final initiations. They would be taken up on the mountain. They would first prepare by doing a 40-day fast, alone in the forest, and then they would be taken up on the mountain by the current seers, of which there's always been 12 within this particular society. And then they would be dimensionally shifted to where they're no longer, quote unquote, on this plane of existence. And they would be given a series of 3 herbal tinctures. One put the body in a coma. The second, transform the consciousness. And the third, if they survived, because not everybody did, revived the body and brought it back out of a coma. Seers were able to tell how much an initiatory candidate was changing by they would lift their arm and then let go of it. And if the arm kind of came down like this, they're still holding on to themselves. But if the arm just completely fell, as if nobody's present, consciousness is transforming vastly. So when the Egyptian pharaohs, and I don't mean dynastic Egypt, I mean way before that. Dynastic Egypt was totally corrupt. Egypt, as we have history of, was totally corrupt. But before that, when the pharaohs would come, then they would undergo their initiatory trial. Then they would return to Egypt as what we know of as the creator gods. They would go back as Horus or Geb or Isis or Hathor, whoever it was. So they would completely transform themselves and become the divine being that they really and truly came here to be. If you look at the history of it, all of the great biblical prophets came to Mount Kenya, including Yeshua, including Muhammad, all of the Abrahamic lines. They all came there to do this. And this has been going on in Mount Kenya for tens of thousands of years. When the British invaded and colonized, that's the first thing they did, was they banned it. But that's what all of the colonizing countries did around the world, is they banned the local people traditions.
Shame.
So, and it wasn't until 2008 that it was allowed legally to happen again. And so it's still building momentum, let's say.
Awesome.
It still surprises me, with all of the phenomenally sacred mountains around the world, like Kailash in Tibet or Mount Shasta in California, that Mount Kenya is not on people's radar.
Yeah.
All I can say is it must not be time yet.
And so am I correct that you have been invited to be the 13th seer? Isn't that?
Well, while I was in Kenya the first time in 2018, I had a dream that I shared with Samuel Kamitha, that all 12 of the current seers were standing around me with their hands on my shoulders. And behind them were the 12 from the previous generation and the 12 from the previous and the previous and the previous. And when I shared that dream with him, he said, "You've been accepted." I said, "Well, yes, that's true, but that's not what the dream was. The dream was saying that I'm the 13th." And he said, "No, that can't be. There's never been a 13th." And yet I knew it was true. And so I claimed it. When I went back in 2020, I didn't go in 2019, but in 2019, and the Gikuyu people are connected with the Hopi. So the Hopi knew that I was going. And in 2019, I went to the Hopi reservation and spent time there. And then while I was there, a Hopi elder had gone to Kenya, and he brought a bag of carved bone icons. And he brought one for each of the seers. So while I was there in 2020, Samuel brought out this bag and is showing me these 12 carved icons. And then he got this lovely smile on his face and turned the bag upside down, and another one fell out. And then he said, "And then there's you."
I love it.
And so I reminded him of the dream, and he said, "Yes, I know. You knew before we did." So it's just, I honestly don't know what this means. I don't.
Well, you're going to find out.
Life is for learning.
Yeah. And I can't wait. I'm excited to find out myself what it's going to be for you.
Not as excited as I am.
Oh, I'm sure. So when you go this year, you'll find out, right? Or you'll get an inkling, the start of it probably.
I do not know what this means, so I can share it, but I don't know what the reality of it is going to be. So the 12 seers are very private. I don't know of anybody that knows who all 12 are except the 12 seers. During their history, many people have decided that there are treasures that the Gikuyu seers are caretaking and guarding that are inside Mount Kenya, ranging like from the Holy Grail to the Ark of the Covenant. People's imaginations just go crazy. And they have attempted to extract the information, and seers have been killed. And so they're very private. They don't need to be public. They just do their work quietly for the benefit of all, not only in Kenya, but all of Africa. And they refer to themselves as the College of Seers, or at least that's a name that's been given to them. I have been told that when I go there this time, they will induct me into the College of Seers. But I do not know what that means.
Well, you're going to find out.
I will find out.
And then you'll come back and share. So I'm assuming this doesn't mean you'll ever move to Africa. I think that maybe you're supposed to be here for the collective instead of
My work is not in Africa.
Yeah.
And so I do want to have a small piece of land and a house in Kenya, so that I have a place that maybe I can go there a couple of months out of the year.
That would be awesome.
And just meditate and just be there. But it makes no sense for me to live there full time because of the technological difficulties of continuing to run classes and offer classes over that great of a distance and be able to coordinate everything. And my work is really and truly here.
I was going to say you're needed here.
Africans don't need me to be in Africa,
No, no, you're needed here.
and then that's why I'm here.
I love it.
But I dearly love to be on African soil. Mother Africa, trust me, if you have not been to Africa, I urge you to go with an open heart. For Africa will change you in ways that it's unimaginable. And it is true that as Africa awakens, so will the world. The slavery overlay on Africa is still so intensely prevalent. And it is deeply, deeply personal. So when I was on the prayer vigil last year in 2020, I know in doing the prayer vigil, I no longer can pray for myself. I can only pray for others. And that was the entirety of my prayer that day, was for the slavery overlay to be removed. Because it's literally palpable. It's like a physical presence that you can feel.
I can feel it.
And
as you speak of it, I can feel it.
At the sixth stop that we did, I had a vision of what I saw was an almost endless red road in front of me. So you probably know that a lot of African soil is red, as it is in a lot of other places around the world. And it is red because of the blood. It's representative of the blood of the people. There are places in Africa where the soil is not red. It's this phenomenal deep purple.
Ooh.
And that is the royal blood. That's the blood of the kings and queens that have been shed over millennia. And when I looked at this road, I realized that, yes, my prayer is being added to this, but there's nothing that I am capable of doing to lift that particular overlay on all of Africa. It's up to each and every person, just like it is here, to free themselves.
Yes.
When you know that you are not a slave to anybody or anything, and you've let go of the mental part that still thinks of yourself as a slave, now you're freeing yourself.
Yes.
And let's just say that however long it takes, Africa has a road to walk. And at the same time, there's always grace. And grace comes unbidden, unexpected, and we have no idea when it will come, if it will come. Sometimes we have no idea if it even exists, but it does. And it happens in the most wonderful ways when you least expect it. And so literally, what do I know about the path that the entire world is walking? Tomorrow, grace may settle over all of Africa, over all of the world, and people will wake up going, why did I think that was a way to live? Or whatever it is that occurs to them to be able to feel. So literally, who knows?
Yeah.
We be present in this moment, and we work with whatever presents itself to us in this moment to work with. Sometimes it's our stuff that we work with. And yes, for those of you that are curious, yes, I still work on my stuff. I still have stuff to work with. As they say, I'm not done being cooked yet.
Either.
I do look forward to the cooking pot saying, yep, he's ready. He's about to pop. So,
Put a fork in them.
or maybe I'll have one of those little turkey thermometers that'll pop up. Okay, He's done.
I almost think that when you're done, you're gone. It's time. You're
No,
out of here.
actually, no. That's the old way, Judy.
Yeah.
So the old way of doing things, the way that it's been done throughout untold millennium, is that people have their epiphany and they completely go through their transfiguration and they transform into who they've always been. They self-realize who they are. And how that has looked is that, except for extremely great souls, like souls that we can't even comprehend, souls like Yeshua becoming Christ, or Gautama becoming Buddha, or Muhammad having his realization, whatever it is, and untold others that have lived here. And when they have that realization, they drop their body and they go back into non-physical as an ascended master. That's the way it's always been, but that's not what we're doing now. This is why it's so important to be in the body, because as we do the work in the body, as we cleanse ourselves, as we remove the cellular distortions, whatever they may be, from the cells in our body, then the frequency of our body rises and the body literally begins to ascend. But as that happens, the body becomes pure enough that the soul can come into it. When that happens, we come fully into our body. We become an embodied master, and we continue to live here on this plane in a physical body, but a transformed physical body. So we're not leaving, we're not ascending, we're embodying.
Makes sense.
You could say that embodiment is an ascension, and in a level it is, but not ascension in terms of we leave.
Right.
So
I like that.
So as you fully embody yourself, then you become, whatever your path is, you become the living embodiment of it. So I have occasionally been known to say that I'm the living embodiment of the Eden template. And I don't say that so much anymore, but it's really kind of true. But there's nothing special about that, because you are the living embodiment of who you are. And everybody listening to this broadcast, they will become the living embodiment of who they have incarnated and what they have come here to do.
Yes.
So if you become, if you're here to change the world's financial system into something that is equitable and fair for every person on the planet, and those resources are available to everyone, well, then you become the living embodiment of fairness in an economic system, whatever it might be.
Right.
If you are, what is it that is spoken of in Hinduism and Buddhism, that if you are really present doing the dishes, well, you're present enough to take care of the universe. So you just become it. You just become it. And there's no specialness in it.
No.
It just is. It just is.
Right. Along with no specialness is no judgment.
Oh, judgment, it doesn't exist.
No, not at all. Not at all.
When we judge somebody, all we do is lower the frequency of our vibration, because we are looking at somebody in a way that does not see them completely and totally as an emanation of the divine. And I know how difficult that can be, because there are some people not living even remotely close to what that is as a reality. Nonetheless, we're talking about ourselves individually, not about what is going on in the outer world. When you view somebody as being less than the divinity that they are, you bind yourself to them and you lower the frequency of your vibration to match them. Because it doesn't matter who it is, it doesn't matter what it is. And I'm not saying give into it and go be like that. You know,
No, of course not.
I'm not saying don't work on change, because wherever you have the opportunity to change something, then yes, jump in and do it. But you cannot do it through separating somebody from creation.
No, we're all one.
There is no separation. And literally, there's only one person having this conversation. There's only one person listening to this conversation or viewing this conversation. There's only one of us.
So true. So true. So let's lead into your classes,
Okay.
since that's what they help people do.
So this coming Saturday on October 2nd, I'm beginning the 4th version of my 11-week course, which is called Freedom from the Known, which is a really, really deep dive into consciousness and clearing. So we go through a process where we activate and clear and activate and clear, activate and clear. And so we're gradually kind of doing this. We're riding that wave.
Yeah.
And raising the vibration of ourselves as we're doing it. This will be the 4th time that I've taught it this year. Early bird registration has shut off. But if somebody viewing this video, if you write me before the class and tell me that you saw the video with Judy, then I will send you a code and give you the energy exchange of the early bird registration.
Awesome.
So and then just individually, as I mentioned earlier, I offer seven classes in the Eden Template series. The first one is Awakening Your Original Soul Blueprint, which is a reconnection to source and the moving of that energy through your body. The second class works on a very detailed cleansing of the spinal column and the energy centers, where we go through them, and the 2 side nerves, we go through them in very fine detail, cleaning and aligning and adjusting the magnetic polarities, especially of the side nerves, to be able to achieve an optimal energy flow through the body. So there's no resistance. We're basically cleaning any distortion that you find in it. In the 3rd class, we work with frequency harmonics. We talk about the way that energy works and the kind of impact that we are able to have if we're conscious in a moment on a negative energy field, or what we might consider to be a negative, say a fear-based energy field, and how to be able to work with it. We also go through the spinal column, because every single one of the vertebrae in the spinal column is an energy center. And we cleanse them, we pull any distortions out that are there. Then we do, the next class is called Grace, and what we do in that class, which is probably one of my favorites of all of the classes, because it's an opening of the heart in every cell in the body. Mm-hmm. And it actually goes deeper than that. It's an opening of the heart in every atom within every cell of the body, and with every subatomic particle within every atom, all the way down to the finest point of matter that can exist, where it's that wave that one millisecond it's energy, and the next millisecond it's matter. It's right on that threshold to where you literally open up the heart to the flow of love moving through everything, which is grace.
Beautiful.
In one of the subsequent classes, we go through and we consciously generate our incarnational stream, which is all all of what we normally have referred to as past lives or future lives, they're all just happening concurrently. They're all in the now moment. They're separated by a veil, an artificial veil that we call time and space, which are really just GPS coordinates. That's all time and space are. So we generate your entire incarnational stream from your heart, and then we collapse it, because that's what's really happening now. Is all the timelines between all of our lives are collapsing now anyway. This is just a conscious acceleration of that whole process, and as they collapse, all of those incarnations begin to come forward into this now moment that you're living here in this time. But any of the distortions that are in it cannot come with it. And that's why we do grace, the opening of the heart, before that, because then grace comes and removes those distortions. It accepts them and transforms them, so that they're not just hanging out in the field for somebody else to be able to pick up. So it's a journey. It's a series, and like I said, there is a new class, but I'm not talking about it just yet, because I honestly don't know how to present it. I'm waiting for it to fully integrate within me.
And the person should take these in order, correct?
Well, I used to think that.
Okay.
I used to think that. I recently did a session, a one-on-one personal session with somebody new in London, in England. And what came through was to give them the very last class of the Freedom from the Known course, which is a meditation on a conscious journey to source and back. And I've known for a long time that you could use the words and refer to the classes in the series as a shamanic journey. It's not some 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Right.
8. It's not linear at all. And so that person reminded me this truly is a shamanic journey. I was hesitant. I'm going, you have no training, you have no foundational piece to be able to written it, and guidance was no, this is what they need. So when you're on a shamanic journey, there's no sequence in it. The first thing that happens to you could be the last in the journey, and the last thing in the journey could be the first. It's just, there's no way of predicting.
Yeah.
So I let in terms of, I'm currently being a little bit resistant to that, in that it's not easy to wake up very quickly. Not in my experience. It's much easier if you do your homework a little bit gradually, and you build up your nervous system. It's like you don't go to the gym and lift weights for 6 hours and then go back the next day and want to lift weights for 7 hours.
Right.
No, you build yourself up. You build your inner muscles. You build the strength of your nervous system as a foundation to be able to have the strength to be able to work with the increased energy flow that is coming into it. So currently I say you can take any one of the first 4 classes in any sequence that you want, but I really like people to go through the first 4 before going through the last 3, the next 3, because for me they are big, and let's just say that I'm being cautious and considerate of the people coming, because I don't know where they are. They may be completely brand new and just beginning to take the first steps on their path. They may be very advanced practitioners. That's all okay. And if next week, then my guidance is just open it up. Eventually what I'm going to do, and I haven't accomplished this, and I'm going to take all of the classes and put them online as recordings and allow people to purchase a recording or the entire series and listen to them as they wish.
Yeah, at their own pace.
Mhm.
That sounds like a good idea.
That's going to have to wait until after I get back from Africa, because I have no idea what's going to happen.
Exciting times.
There may be entirely new classes, and everything currently goes out the window and start with something brand new.
And
I don't think that's going to happen, but hey, what do I know? I'm just here.
and I'm going to absolutely have to have you back once you come back from Africa.
Oh, please, I would love
Oh,
to.
yeah. Well, I'll have you back more than that, but I'm just saying,
I'll
sure.
I'll be really upset at you if you don't.
Oh, yeah, I would like you to be more of a regular, definitely. But yeah, no, I'm excited for you. I can't wait to see what transpires for you there and what your experience is. Have you thought about bringing back some soil? Can you do that? Or won't they let you? Oh, because that was my first thought when you were talking about it.
You are not allowed to bring soil from another country into the US.
Okay.
In the same way, you're not allowed to bring meat products or fruit and vegetables. So when I was there in 2018, Samuel and his wife Agnes gave me a bag of soil from their garden to bring back. So I had maybe 5 pounds of soil with me in multiple containers. This is actually really silly and fun. I went to the grocery store and I bought some bags of cashews and emptied them out and put the soil in it, so it looked like bags of cashews. Of course they found it. I think had like almost 15 pounds of soil in my carry-on luggage.
Okay.
And let's just say that they laughed at me and going, no, I'm sorry, no, not this one. Oh my God, look how much. What are you doing? Are you starting a farm or something? What? No, you can't take any of this. You can't take any of this. So no,
Oh,
you can't do that.
so did they take you off into the little room?
No, they just took all the soil and said, okay, you can have your luggage. That's good. So,
So it must happen a lot, huh? Where people try to take the soil. It's happened before, let's say that.
I can't comment. They're just international rules as far as I know.
Yeah.
So in every, especially on the East Coast, the major airports that people fly through, Miami, New York, et cetera, they have very large sections that deal with disposing of food and soil products that people attempt to bring in from other countries.
Yeah.
And they have dogs that sniff it out.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
I don't think they detain people anymore. It's
Oh,
just,
that's good.
you know, they just take it and dispose of it.
Mm-hmm. Get rid of it for you. So, website. Let's give people your website so they know how to find you and where they can get your classes, sign up, get going, find their way back to love.
It's very simple. It's theedentemplate.com.
Awesome. And it's a beautiful website, I might add.
I'm gonna write it in your chat, Meg.
Please do.
So that it'll show up. I'm assuming this will show up in the video. I honestly have no idea. Usually when you're recording them, it just speaker view. I don't know if the chat shows up or not. So
Well,
it's just www.theedentemplate.com.
awesome. Awesome. And do your other classes, I know you've got that one starting, but the other classes, the Eden template classes, do they run sporadically or randomly, or you got some of those coming up, or?
What I've been doing recently is starting and offering each class every 2 weeks, 1 through 7.
Oh, okay.
And I'm beginning a sequence. Hang on, let me be accurate.
Yeah,
Let me
definitely
be,
take a
let me
look.
be, let me be accurate on dates here. The first level, the first beginning class will, Awakening Your Original Soul Blueprint, will happen on Saturday, October 16th at 9 a.m. Pacific. And I'm not going to be able to run through the whole series this time because I leave for Africa on the 18th. For some reason, it's important for me to be in Africa for the winter solstice. So I'm leaving earlier. Plus, to be honest, plane tickets get a little cheaper.
That always helps.
Travel to Kenya over Christmas is a really big deal around the world. Entire families from around the world take Christmas vacations and come to Kenya and go to the game parks, go down into Masai Mara, or go down into the Serengeti to be able to be with the animals that are there. It's a huge, huge tourist thing. The closer you get to Christmas, the more expensive the tickets get.
So when you were there, did you get close to any animals?
When I was there, what, Judy?
Did you get close to any of the animals?
I have some very, very close and dear friends that are there. The only animal in the wild that I have not seen yet is elephants and lions. But there are multiple game parks that are there. So I've gone up into the national forest at Mount Kenya, which is just phenomenal. And the forest is so dense that you can't really see into it. So,
Amazing.
but there are, just outside of Nairobi, there's like a 200,000 acre game park that has just about every animal that you can think of, except wild elephants. And I've been in that park many times. There is also a quote unquote a zoo there of injured or orphaned animals that could not be reintroduced into the wild. Several of them are my dear friends. So there is a leopard there. That the first time that I was there, as we were visiting, and as I was walking away, he turned around and sprayed me, and I mean sprayed me. It was a spray that could have gone like 30 feet, and
Wow.
a lot of urine, It's like he just completely his
In the
name.
shower.
His name is Talik, and the keeper that was there with us, everybody around me was just going, because there was a lot of tourists there too, was just going, oh my God, and it's really pungent.
Oh yeah.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing, just like you are now. And the keeper said, oh my God, that's Africa's blessing right there. That's considered a really high blessing. And subsequently, when I was there in 2020, I had many dreams about him while I was there. And I had the opportunity to visit with him again and actually get up really close and
Cool.
be able to touch him and talk privately with him. He's an amazing being, just phenomenally beautiful being. And Kenya has a world-renowned orphan elephant recovery program that is it's phenomenal with the way that poachers are working, killing adult elephants. Without a mother, an elephant baby, an elephant child will not survive.
Wow.
And over many arduous years, they finally figured out a nutritional formula that they can care for them and they will survive.
Oh, awesome.
And then in eastern Kenya, over near the Atlantic Ocean, they have something like a 2 million or 2 million acre or hectare reserve that is no people. It's just for these elephants. And when they get to be about 3 or 4 years old, they take them over out of the nursery environment and they truck them over to Eastern Kenya, where they meet other 2, 3, 4, 6, 8-year-olds, and they're cared for, but they're just gradually allowed to wander out into the bush. And if they merge with the herd and they don't come back, well, then that's optimal.
Yeah.
It's just a phenomenal program. So I always love to. I didn't get to visit them last year. They were shut down because of COVID. And hopefully, they weren't shut down. They were just closed to the general public coming in to be able to see. But they also rescue baby rhinos and things on that order too.
That's cool.
It's fabulous when you encounter their spirits. It's something absolutely tremendous. Their spirits are something that we're just not used to.
I believe that.
And it's the same thing here in the States with the animals that live here. We're just so divorced from the earth.
Yes.
Most of us don't have a clue where our food comes from, or what it's like to produce that food and get it to us.
That's very true. Hey, a lot of people don't even know what it's like to be in nature.
It's true. It's true.
And I think that nature is like your guide to getting back to who you are.
So that's one of the reasons why when I talk about being in the body is grounding on the earth. Walk on the earth barefoot, lay on the earth. Allow yourself just to be with the earth as she is, because she is a living being just in the same way that each one of it is. And she's more magnificent than we can imagine. And she is literally rising. She is becoming the star that she always is, always has.
The heartbeat. She's our heartbeat, basically.
And one of the really lovely things going on is that Gaia, as a living being, is no longer responsible for the planet. She's been responsible to us all this time. Now it's us. We are the ones that are responsible for caring for the earth. And it doesn't take a rocket science to look at the way that we live to understand that it's not even remotely sustainable.
No.
You know, we're just, all we're doing, not individuals, but as a collective, all we're doing is just taking.
Yeah.
And it's not sustainable.
No.
The more that you get in touch with your heart and with who you are, the more you understand that you are intimately connected and not separate from all of life. You're just one piece in this huge web of life.
Yep. I always like to say you're just one grain of sand. Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of them.
That's right. That's right. It really puts it in perspective for you.
It does.
You're just that one grain of sand. So, do you have anything else you'd like to add in closing?
The favorite, yes, there is. Thank you, Judy. The favorite quote that I have that I use all the time is that literally, no matter how broken you think you might be, you're not. You're not.
I love that. And it's so true.
That comes to me through Kuan Yin, through this statue that I found in a garage, completely broken. You can't really make the details out here, but there are huge cracks that run through her where she was dropped. Her head was broken off. So her hands are missing. Her lotus flowers were gone, et cetera, et cetera. I found her in a house that was for sale that my team insisted I go in, even though at that time I had a job making $7 an hour selling magazine subscription renewals. And this was an open house in a multi-million-dollar home. And they were adamant to go in. And when we went into the garage, as the agent was giving me this tour, this statue, she was there. And I asked him about it, and he said, "Oh my God, do you know what that is? Please take it. I keep asking the owners to get it out of here. It looks really junky and trashy." And so I took her home, intending to put everything back together. And I bought some glue to do that, and I couldn't. Stopped. And I tried doing this periodically for the next 7 years. Every time I went to put the pieces together, no. So finally, surprisingly, as you may know about me, I may be slow sometimes, but I do get there. So it only took me 7 years to say, "Why?" And her response was, "I've been waiting for you to ask that question." And the answer is very simply, no matter how broken you think you are, you're not.
I love it.
And so even though there are pieces missing, all of her has been put back together.
And she's not broken.
Never was.
Nope.
Never
That's
was.
an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. So,
Literally, I don't care how broken anybody thinks they are. It doesn't matter how difficult your life has been. It doesn't matter how much you feel that you are suffering. And I certainly don't wish to mitigate any suffering or make light of any suffering that anybody listening is going through. On the other side of this, you are completely whole, and you always have been.
absolutely.
And the world needs you. The world needs you to remember who you are, and step forward.
Beautiful.
You're precious, and we want you all to remember who you are.
And if you need some guidance, please go to the Eden template. Sign up for David's course. Better yet, go to Africa with him. What an experience.
Well, you can come to Africa with me energetically this year, just not physically.
Oh, I will. Trust me. I'll be there. I'll be there for sure.
I'll be leaving on December 18th, and the prayer vigil is December 27th, the day after Christmas.
All right. I'm writing those down.
And it begins at 8 o'clock in the morning, Kenyan time. And Kenya is 10 hours ahead of me, which is Pacific time.
All right. Definitely.
I do not know what the universal designator is.
Well, it'll be exciting. I can guarantee you that. I can't thank you enough for joining me today and sharing all your wonderful gifts and knowledge. And everyone, just remember, back to love. That's what it's all about, loving one another. Be kind to each other and love each other. David, I love you.
I love you too, Judy.
And thank you so much for honoring us today. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Judy, it's a privilege to be here, and you know that our friendship goes way back. And for those of you that don't know, Judy literally is an embodiment of love. Judy has been through more than it is possible to imagine somebody having gone through, and come out the other side shining this beautiful light, and still understanding, still knowing and remembering that it's all love. It always has been.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being you, and for the work that you have done.
That's why I came here.
It's true. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, and love to all.
Thank you all. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening.